So, welcome. Today's session is an emphasis on side stretching, the lateral body, and that's something that we do when we kind of want to wake up our bodies. I discovered a really lovely word last year called pandiculate. Pandiculate is what humans and animals do when they wake up in the morning and they yawn and stretch, just a fancy word for it. But this lateral body doesn't often get enough of that. So we're going to make that an emphasis with all the lovely things that we do in yoga practice. And the first thing is to sit and do some breathing. So I'm going to move to the wall to do that because it gives me good support, and sit on a bolster. So you might want to do that too. So we'll have a seat on a support, a blanket or a bolster. And I've got one of these yoga blocks here, and I'm sitting right up against the wall. I'm going to put the block behind me where my upper back is. And it reminds me as I lean back into it that I can take that support to open up the front of my chest. And that is a good result for breathing. The kind of breathing, there are so many different kinds of breathings and pranayamas in yoga, but in the hot weather that we've experienced recently, a nice breathing exercise is called Shitali breathing. And it's done breathing in through the mouth, but with the tongue curled. So you might try that on. Breathing in. If it happens that you can't do that, there are certain ways our anatomy works where that it's not possible. You can just have your teeth together and breathe in through your mouth, through your closed teeth. So the exhalation is through the nostrils, and we're going to do 10 rounds of the Shitali breathing, where your hands are placed palms down or palms up. Just slide your elbows in a little bit closer to your ribs, and then drop your shoulders, lift your chest. We'll begin, and you go at your own pace for 10 cycles of the Shitali breathing. You can probably hear me through the microphone. Breathing in. And breathing out through the nostrils. You can feel your breath across the tongue and the lower palate as you breathe in through your curled tongue. And just keep your face as relaxed as possible. And perhaps just 2 more rounds. And as we finish, then just in our good posture, consolidating for a moment, eyes are still closed or looking downwards, and calm and ready for our session. And then opening your eyes, let's come to lie down on the mat, and we'll do our warm-ups. And take a lying down position with your legs bent, just lying on your back, your legs bent, and your feet on the floor. Have your arms out a little ways away from the side of your body. And we could do one of these side body stretches, just, let's say, with your left arm stretching overhead. Make sure that you have plenty of space to do that. And then extend the left leg away from the left arm. Press into your bent leg foot, your right foot, and that's going to stabilize your pelvis as you stretch away through that left side. And I can feel that opening up the side of my waist and the side of my rib cage, as well as the two limbs. And let's release for a moment, and then go on and extend in both directions, your heel moving away from your arm, your fingertips moving away from your heel, and let it go. And let's do one more like that, a long length of your body all along the side, and then fold your arm in, fold your leg in, and you're back to where you started, 2 feet on the floor. Let's do opposite side. It works well for me when I lengthen the limbs away from each other, right arm, left leg stretching away from each other on an inhalation, and then a momentary exhalation to consolidate, and then go again. And maybe third time, and then folding the arm in, the leg in. And we'll continue with some work for the digestive and the elimination organs through the abdomen. So bend one leg in and the second leg in. Apanasana. Have one hand at the front of each knee. Exhale, thighs towards your ribs. Inhale, knees away. As much as you can to make this exercise the most effective, keep the sitting bones moving towards the floor, even when you draw the thighs close to your ribs. And we know that yoga is all about breathing, so emphasize those two phases of the breath. Exhalation, kind of that compressive movement. Inhalation, opening up to receive the breath. And one more round like that. And then 2 feet on the floor. Let's stay with the breath emphasis and rest your hands over your abdomen, one above the navel, one below the navel, and begin to feel the breath. And we're going to extend it a little bit to create a posterior and an anterior rocking of the pelvis. Inhale, inflate the abdomen, and exhale, deflate. So the breath is steady, rhythmical, but no stress in it. And then feel the reciprocal nodding through the lower part of your spine, the tilt of your pelvis. Just a gentle rocking there. And we want to have that because we're going to continue and move into the bridge poses, Setu Bandhasana. So press your feet down, and then on the inhalation, prepare to lift the pelvis off the floor. And exhale, lift off. Feel the outline of your feet as you press into the mat and come up. And then down on the exhalation as well. Inhalation, preparing and pushing off and lifting off. Feel the hamstrings engage and the buttock muscles, but without clenching. The next time that we do our lift, feel the two sets of muscles, the glutes and the hamstrings supporting you. So it's not so much arching the back, but using those strong muscles to lift. And then stay in the elevated position. Move the thighs towards the knees, so you're not moving them towards the chest. Press your upper arms down, palms press down. You might get a little bit more lift in that manner. And then finally, let's do a lateral movement here. So if I move my left hip to the left side, and for me that's towards the camera, and then back into center, and then over to the right side. You might release your hands from the floor and place your fingertips on your frontal hips. And then as you glide the movements to the left, avoid dropping that opposite hip. So your hips stay level, in a line, as you glide from one side to the other. It's a little movement. There's not a lot of movement there. And then finish on the right side. Come back to center and lower down, articulating the spine and all the way to the floor. And nicely done. Let's do one more movement while we're supine, lying down on our backs, for our hamstrings, which will stand us in good stead when we move into the standing poses. Bend your right knee into your chest. Extend that leg up. Your left foot is firmly planted on the floor, and reach around and hold the back of the right thigh. Alternately, extend the heel up towards the ceiling and press into the hands clasped behind your right leg on the hamstrings, and then release. Meet the resistance of your hands holding at the back of the thigh, pressing your hamstrings into your thigh, into your hands, and then release. And let's do that for a few more times. So activating your quadricep, your front thigh muscle, all the way up to the hip fold. And then still with that leg extended and releasing some of the pressure into your hand, then rotate your right foot. Give it a nice circling movement. If you can feel the interplay of the toes and the foot bones and the ankle. And then go the other way. All right, and then leave off and place the right foot next to its mate. Pause, make sure that your pelvis is centered and the weight's even on the both sides of your sacrum. Bend your left leg in, reach around and hold the back of the thigh and extend left leg upwards. And then with the breath, exhale, press your hamstrings against your clasped hands. Release. Press out and release. Your left foot is flexed and the heel a little higher than the ball of the foot. And one more round like that. Feel your left buttocks is still on the floor. You're not lifting there. And then relax and circle the left foot, toes, bones, ankles, the lat. Other direction. And then 2 feet on the floor. And I just thought of something nice for us to do here. Turn your hands down and place your palms firmly into the mat, elbows straight, and then as well, press the tips of your shoulders towards the floor. Press your shoulders, press your shoulder blades, and release. And once more, press back. So feel that movement in the shoulder blades as they press towards the floor. They also move into the center of their spine. So the shoulder press is just helping reduce any stooping through the upper part of our back. And then let all of that go, and let's come into all fours position, kneeling on our mats. In your kneeling position, your hands underneath your elbows underneath your shoulders, your hands open with all of the digits stretched, the thumbs as well, and then knees underneath your hips. Let's just collapse a little bit in the spine and then press the spine up. We'll move in those two directions for a few rounds and let the spine drop and then lift it up. This is kind of looping of the spine up and then down. And then come to neutral spine where you can't see it, but you have the sense that your spine is relatively straight here. And then move the chest a little forward and open up the corners of your chest forward. Move back slightly, move your buttocks back, but not too far back. And then rock forward and back. You want to keep your neck in line with the rest of your spine so you're looking downwards. Beautiful. And then let's try a sideways movement. So when we've done this in lying down position, move your right ribs and your right hip to the right side, back to center, and then to the left side. It's always good if you strike a breathing rhythm that works for you. So I'm saying exhale to the side, inhale back to center, exhale to the side. So your waist makes a curve shape, so a C shape or a reverse C shape as you move to the side. Let's take a break for your wrists. So come down onto your forearms, turn your palms, flip them over and have the palms facing the ceiling. Open all the spacing between your fingers and especially between your index finger and thumb. And then hands are supportive again, back onto the mat, all fours. Let's do a strengthening movement here. So we're going to take that right leg back behind us, tuck the toes under, have the toes resting onto the floor, but now with the right leg straight, and lean back a little bit into the right heel and release that. Yeah, and even though I said this was a strengthening movement, we're not quite there, but it would be a shame not to stretch that calf muscle. And then take pause and raise the right leg, no higher than your hip if you could lift up that high. Doesn't matter how high you lift. And then where that comes from is the hamstring and the glute again. And then lowering right knee to the floor and swapping sides. Let's do the stretch for the lower leg, the back of the left lower leg. Tuck the toes under and lean back a little bit. I think that's called the gastrocnemius. Release and stretch away again. Good. Back to neutral. We're going to lift that leg. Let's say point the toes this time. So plantar flex the foot and then bend the left knee down again. Pause. Good time to take a rest. We're going to continue here with a few more exercises. Open up your palms. Have a look at your palms. Can you stretch the mound of the thumb right to the tip and then back onto all fours? This time when you lift your right knee and extend your right leg behind you, switch on your core muscles, your abdominal muscles, and balance on your right hand and left knee, and then see if you can now begin to lift up your left hand, left arm, and balance there with the strength of your belly muscles. And then left hand down, right knee down, and let's reverse. And we're taking that left leg behind in these stages and lifting it, and then lighten the weight onto your right hand and see how you go here. Strong abdominals and extending right arm, left leg. And 2 hands down, and then happily take a little break, separate your knees more, and gradually draw your buttocks back towards your heels. You might find as you fold back here that there's just a limit on how far the knees will allow you to do that. Wherever you end up is just fine. Bend your elbows and stack your hands up so that you can rest your forehead on your 2 fists, one on top of the other. I'm going to come back a little further because I can. Relax your shoulders. Right, and then once more, all fours. We're going to move on from being low on our mat like this through dog pose. Let's do 3 dog poses with the breath. Tuck the toes under, lift your upper spine up towards the ceiling, push off, lift your knees, and lower your heels. Let's say that was a long exhalation. Come down on an inhalation, consolidate, open up your chest forward, exhale, knees lift, bum lifts, stretch back into your heels, stretch your shoulders, and down all fours once more. Press strongly into your hands, straighten your elbows as much as you can, and lift off. It's fine if you want to keep the knees slightly bent at this point. You might get a better shoulder stretch in dog pose. And then let's walk feet towards your hands, hands towards your feet. And then with your knees bent, roll all the way up to standing. Arms are loose by your side. All right. We can take a little lesson here in bending. I think a lot of back difficulties can happen just from people when they reach down and they try to pick something up, especially if it's a heavy object. So here's a little reminder. In your standing position, your feet are apart, your arms loose by your side. We're going to take a forward bend. Let's remind ourselves of where to bend from, and it's from the fold at the bottom of the torso, top of the thighs. Rest your hands there, and then bend your knees a little bit, and hinge from the fold at that hip joint. And then let the trunk float up, straighten your legs, and you're back to standing. And if we do that sequentially, it's a slight knee bend, it's a hinge, and then an unhinge and straight legs. And last one of those, just a little reminder lesson. And knees, and hinge, and unhinge, and straight legs. Good. And that's going to be helpful in some of the standing poses that we do shortly. All right, and then getting back to, just kind of wandered a bit, the theme of stretching the side body and standing soften behind your knees, have your feet a little bit apart, and then raise your left arm up towards the ceiling. Raise your right arm as well. And then alternately, let's say on an inhalation, extend up one arm, inhale, and exhale, lowering that arm and shoulder, and opposite arm. So both arms are up, but we're only stretching them alternately. Inhale and extend, release. Inhale and extend, and release. Now take pause, and let's see if we can make this a little more effective. When you extend up the left arm, then push down through the left foot and long through the left side of your body and releasing. And same thing, opposite side, and right arm comes up, and then it's as though it's coming from the groundedness of the right foot. And then just a couple more of those. Feel the side waist lifting off of the pelvis. Good. And then let the arms drop and give them a little bit of a shake out. Great. Well, let's move on to some standing poses. And I have my yoga block right here. Not going to use it for a little while, but I'll just have it handy in front of my mat. So, from the stance Tadasana or mountain pose, take time and feel your footing. Soften behind your knees. And then step out for the first of the standing poses, Trikonasana. Turn your feet to the right. And there's another way of side bending, and we use it in Trikonasana, and it's good to be reminded of that too. So if I take my right hand and I slot it into the crease of the leg, that's where we were working, between the lower pelvis and the top thigh. But now we're doing a lateral side bend and out to the side. And then there's a limit, and it's dictated, in my case, by my hamstrings. So I'm going to stop there. That's far enough. And then drop my right hand beneath my right shoulder and extend the left arm above the right arm. So when the arms are extended like this, they form a vertical cross with the body and another opportunity to lengthen. So stretching the top arm up and the bottom arm down. Good. Feel the strength of the back leg, in this case your left leg. And then as though somebody were drawing you up through your top arm, inhale and come up. Feet front and center. I'm going to keep my arms elevated for turning my feet the other way. And then I'm going to slot my left hand into the top of the thigh and encourage that side bend to the point where I know my limits here. Left hand behind underneath the left shoulder. Right arm up towards the ceiling. And then feel the cross stretch of those two arms. Good. Roll your shoulders well away from your neck and also lift your tailbone. Good. Feel like you're being drawn up by that invisible helper through your upper hand, and inhale and come up and arms out to the side. Turn the feet front and center and just drop the arms and let them relax. Let's go one more round because I think we can tease out a little bit more in that lateral movement that we're encouraging. Turn your feet to the right. Elevate your arms. Lengthen right out to the tips of your fingers And then lead with your right arm, and you know where you're bending from now. So anchor the right foot, reach down, reach up. And even here, and even though a lot of the movement is stopped, encourage your breathing. Feel the breath through your abdomen, through your diaphragm. In a static pose, you're reminding yourself to breathe, not hold your breath. And then on a couple of uh, inhalations, extend the side ribs further to the right, as though you're telescoping the side ribs away from the waist, and lengthen out there that little bit more. When I do that, then my hand comes down a little bit lower, and I'm not forcing that. And inhale and come up, and feet to center, and now the last side for Trikonasana. Take your time, lengthen. How much stretch can you get through that arm, but then the ribs and then the waist, and your hand comes down and your arm comes up. Pause there. Lift the tailbone again. The right thigh's turning in slightly, the left thigh's turning out. And then finally, let's find that extra extension through the side of your rib cage, lengthening left ribs towards your left armpit. Good. And then lifting out of your pose, one movement, inhale and come up. One movement or more if you need them, and turn the feet to center and step all the way back in. All right, and then let's take that hinging forward movement, which is part of Uttanasana, the forward fold. Rest your hands into that space between the top thighs and the bottom torso, and bend the knees a little bit, and come halfway down to the floor. Pause there. Slip your hands down just below your knees, all along, anywhere along your shin bones. Release your head down. Lift your buttocks up. Lift your tail up. And then just for the last part, observe your breathing. You're slightly inverted. Allow your neck to relax. Let the weight of your head go. And then bend your knees even more. Knees come over your ankles. Leave your arms loose by your side and roll all the way up to standing. Lovely. And let's see how this side body, lateral body stretching works in Parsvakonasana. So will you step out wide again? Take a moment there. We're just still full frontal facing the camera, and feel your stance as steady and firm. And then turn your feet to the right. So our first kind of lunging position, I think. Bend your right leg and straighten it. Let's do a couple of those. The language helps. So if you think of that movement, not so much bending, but gliding. And then hold the bent leg position, that lunge to the right side, where your knee is directly above your ankle. And then we do our side bend. That's still coming from the joint of the hip in that lateral movement. And then rest your right elbow just above your right knee. Now you can see whether your shin bone is vertical. And then turn your palm up towards the ceiling. If you turn your hand out and your forearm out and your upper arm out, then we're going to bring the right side of your body a little forward. And then left arm, stretch it up. And then let's see what happens if you turn your left palm to the right side. Can we take that arm overhead where your left bicep is just above your eye or your ear? And then we've got that long line that we're looking for from your left waist to your left fingertips, left waist to your left heel. Good. And then allow yourself to come up and press your foot down. Inhale and come up. Spread your arms out wide. Spread your shoulders, your shoulder blades. And then drop your arms. Turn your feet to the left side. Good. And then let's take a little while to warm up that knee and alternately bending and straightening. So you can bend the knee and draw it back slightly, and that opens up the groin. And then let's take that as a steady standing position, the lunge, and extending the arms out to the side. And then bend your left elbow, place it just above your left knee onto your thigh bone. Extend the opposite arm up towards the ceiling. So knee above your ankle. And then let's complete the pose. Anchor the back leg. Feel the right footprint well into the floor. Turn your palm towards the left side and extend that arm. You can make the elbow maybe a little bit sharper, the right knee a little sharper. But read your body. See if your body's ready for that. And then finally, you turned your palm up towards the ceiling. Now turn your whole arm out and lift the left side of your chest. And then we're coming up in one movement. Strong back leg brings you up. Arms out to the side, feet to center. And then step your way back to Tadasana. We have just one more movement to do here. Prasarita Padottanasana, one more asana. Take a pause in Tadasana. Soften at the back of your knees. Lift your toes and spread them. And feel your footing supportive. Big toe side of your foot, little toe, inner heel, outer heel. Drop your shoulders. Firm your buttocks. And then here we move into the last of the standing poses for today and step out wide. If it's there for you, be a little wider than you were in the earlier poses. This is called a wide leg forward bend. And then square off your feet, all 5 toes, each foot pointing straight forward. And here, and even more than we were before, slip your hands into the joint of the leg and take a bow forward. Keep the abdomen lifting away from the floor and drawing into the back body. And now I've got my block that I placed in front of my mat here. Bring it to the high end on the upright, and then rest the heels of your hands there. And maybe some of those stretches that we did for the lateral body will stand us in good stead here. So lift your chest and draw your chest forward. Anchor your feet strongly. Press the balls of your feet down, and then, as much as you can, telescope your torso out towards the camera, I think in this case. Good. And then working the hamstrings and lifting at the back of the knee to the buttock bones and lifting the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Good. And then we're going to stay upright like this because it's easier to open up the chest into rotation. And we're going to go into a turn to the right side. So balance your weight just on the block with your left hand on the top of the block, right hand, right waist. And then pump up your chest again. It may have dropped a little bit. Look over to the right side and rotate. And I'm looking to the right. And there's a point where I meet resistance. I'm not turning anymore. That's fine. You don't need to. But you can bring your right elbow back a little bit or your right shoulder back a little bit. and maybe that will increase your rotation. Keep the opposite leg strong. Feel that footprint again. You want to be drawing the adductor muscles up into the pelvis. And then looking down and ready to swap. And right hand supports as you bring your left hand onto your left hip and turning. It's very easy to lose some of that length through the side body. So see if you can lengthen as you're turning towards the left side here. Still feel like your breastbone is moving forward towards the camera. And then finally, that elbow comes back a little bit more. The shoulder comes back. We're going to have one more round here. So looking down, coming back to center. 2 hands onto the block. Project your chest forward. And then swap hands again. Left hand is the supporting hand, right hip. And maybe there's an ease of movement now more towards into your rotation. Extend up, if you can, the left arm towards the ceiling. Good. And then back to center. Prop yourself up on the block for a moment. And then left hand, left hip, rotate, turn. Project your chest forward. And then on this side, see how that works for you. It's fine to keep your hand onto your waist if there's a restriction in the shoulder movement. And then 2 hands onto your block. You've done well there. Let's do a little bit of choreography here. And heel toe, all the way back in to the center of your mat. Good. Bend your knees a little bit. Bring your hands onto your hips. Press your hips down onto your legs. And inhale and unhinge and come all the way up. Well done. I think what would serve us well here is to do a little leg shake out. That's it. Shake it out. All right, let's work on some balancing. I think it's important to have a little bit of that reminder of improving our balance as much as we can every day. So, simple. I'm standing on the carpet now because I don't want any interface as much as possible between the floor and my feet. Lift your toes and lower them down, extending them forward. Just keep a little more softness at the back of your knees, but lift your toes. And you don't have to look down, you know where your toes are. And lift the little toe too. And then extend them forward. And then make sure you're not recruiting muscles from any place else, just your toes lifting. And little toe as well. And hold them up. And then when you bring them back down onto the floor, in consideration again of your posture, feel your big toe bone, your little toe bone, the front of your heel, and all those connections help help you find your hip muscles and your leg muscles. So, lift your right heel and lift your left heel, lower your right heel, lower your left heel. Left heel comes up, right heel. Left heel comes down, right heel comes down. With a little bit more pace, right heel, right heel down, left heel, right heel, left heel, right heel. Good. Let's go according to your own pace here. So heel up, heel down, heel down. And then what you might start to feel is, I don't know, kind of a prancing movement. And we're working through not just your toes now, but all of your foot bones. And a little rocking to your hips as well. Good. Now you've loosened all of that up. Let's work for strength and lift your heels and come to balance just on the balls of your feet. If you need to move towards the wall to keep your balance, please do that. And then lower your heels. And let's test your balance. This next time that you lift up, let's lift both arms too. So just increasing that distance between your arms and your feet. And lower down. You can feel how shaky I am there, so I have to do it all over again. One more heel lift, both heels up, both arms up. Good. And breathing, and arms down, and heels down. Ah, good. And then shake just your feet out. All the foot bones, releasing any tension. All right, let's do one more exercise, and I've become fond of this one recently. So I'm going to step my right foot forward. So we're not crossing over. So the feet are like train tracks, parallel, but the right foot happens to be in front of the left foot. And then let's do a little rock forward where we lift the back heel. The weight shifts forward. Coming onto the back heel, lift the forefoot. Rock forward. Back heel comes up. Rock back. Front foot, forefoot comes up. And just move through those movements with your shoulders relaxed. Good. And then the challenge is to be able to be back heel up and forefoot up at the same time. So see how you go with that balancing act. Sometimes this movement is good, arms out to the side, like the tightrope walker. So we're kind of here in between movement. And then releasing and swapping feet. And left foot forward, right foot back. That left foot forward isn't too far forward. You still want to be able to keep your balance here. And then let's go rocking, back heel up, and then forefoot up. Good. I think the important thing here is to be very aware of the motion of all of the bones of the feet. And then let's see if we can find that very almost tenuous balancing point. Back heel up, front forefoot up. Good. And then releasing arms and coming to stand on your own 2 feet in a line. Very good. And then let's come back to the mat. I'm going to take a lying down position and be side lying on the mat. And I'll start off on my left side. When I stretch out like this, I've already lengthened my side body. I'm on the back edge of my mat, and my arm, my left hip, my left leg all on that line too. And then I can use my arm as a pillow for my head, or if it works better for you, you might fold your arm or have a cushion there underneath your head. So let's have the both legs extended in this manner. So my lower arm supporting my head, my upper arm, my elbow bent, and my hand in front of my breastbone so I don't tip forward or back. So even better than using your hand there to do that, switch on your abdominal muscles and draw the abdominal muscles firmly towards the back body, and use your buttock muscles as well to stabilize the pelvis. So we don't want to be walking forward or back. Now we've done that really lovely setup and we're strong on the ground. Lift your top leg off of your bottom leg and just to the height of your hip and no higher. Or a lower position is fine too. Then flex your both feet and use your strong inner thigh muscles to keep that leg elevated. And then we'll see if we can raise the arm up towards the ceiling and get along without that extra balance point of your hand on the floor. Good. And then the further challenge, make sure that you can stay with this one first, is to lower your arm in front of your body. Use your strong abdominals to hold your pelvis steady and raise and lower the arm for a few rounds. And then the next time that you lower the arm towards the floor, also lower the top leg and let the leg relax completely. You are lifting that leg with the help of the side hip muscles. So soften those muscles now. And let's do one more of these before we move on to Anatasana, which is the reclining Buddha. So bend your legs to a right angle at the hips and a right angle behind the knees. So taking that bent leg position, what's it like to do a similar movement and lift the top leg away from the bottom leg? So have a look when you've done that. Once more, the knee comes up no higher than the hip, but your foot in line with your knee. So it makes your shin bone parallel with the floor. And pause there. Keep the side of your waist lifted a little bit. So where your left ribs are near to the floor, lift them up. And then finally, let's see how we go to extend the arm up as well. And reaching for the ceiling. Beautiful. And then as we lower the arm in front of the body as we did before, then let's lower the leg. So the legs close again. Inhale, arms come up and leg lifts up. Exhale, arms come down. I'm just making up this breathing pattern, see if it works for you. And leg comes down. And one more time, arm comes up and leg comes up. And finally, leg comes down and arm comes down. All right, we're going to switch sides, but before we do, we'll take on that yoga pose, Anatasana. So go back to extending your legs along the mat. You're still on the back edge of the mat. But this time we're going to prop ourselves up onto our lower hand, your lower arm, lower hand. Bend the elbow, lift up, and cradle your head into your left hand. At this point, you are challenging your balance. I can feel it in my body. And then lengthen the elbow out a little bit to bring that armpit a little closer to the floor. Here's where the buttock muscles need to be strong to keep you from tipping, teeter-tottering. Press your lower leg down, bend your upper leg, bend your right knee, slide the right foot along the left thigh, and then see how you go to extend that leg. It's externally rotated, so it's turned out a little bit. Now, if you were secure in your balance And I don't feel very much that way at the moment. You could bend that leg and hold along the leg someplace, or even catch your big toe. So I probably need to stop talking for a moment as I do this. And then folding that leg in with as much grace as you can and extending back to where you started and ready to start on the second side. So we're taking that reclining position onto your right side. And when you've done that, then take a moment. We're starting with a few warm-ups to anatasana. And the first one is with straight legs. And lifting, flex your feet first. Lift the top leg about away from the bottom leg. And just coming up a little, not a lot. And I'm pretty stable here. I've got all of the lower part of my right side supporting me. And I can extend up my arm. So we take this in stages, and if you need to keep your balance with your hand in front of you, that's perfectly fine. And then let's see what happens when we raise and lower that arm. You have to do a little motor planning to do this. So you increase your stability where your body rests onto the floor. Press your foot down, press that hip down. And we're just going through this potential range of movement, raising and lowering the arm. And the next time that the arm comes down, lower the leg and relax. You might want to pat, pat, pat the top hip. That's where you were working to lift that leg. All right, and then moving on to bent leg position. And we're still at the stage where we're supporting ourselves and ready to lift the top leg away from the bottom leg. And there's a certain way that you can practice your body sense here. Can you feel, you might not be able to see, that your foot is in line with your knee? That raised leg, your foot and knee in the same line. All right? And then on this side, when you extend up the arm towards the ceiling, let's raise and lower the leg at the same time as the arm. The leg comes down, arm comes down, and lifting. And it will be helpful to use your breath here. Let's say exhale, closing. Inhale, opening. And one more time. And when the arm comes down, lower the leg down and take an extra breath. All right. And then finally, the lovely pose, anatasana. And for this, we raise up, lift up head and torso, and rest your head into your lower hand. I'm going to move my elbow forward, and it gives me a little bit more support through the arm and the armpit. All right, now I better stop talking for a moment until I get my balance. This time, point your toes away from you. Point the top foot away from you. You're going to start to glide that foot in along the seam of your lower leg, and that leg is bent. And then see how you go to extend the leg. If your neck moves into rotation easily here, you can have a look at the extended leg. Or I'm going to try, and maybe I'll have to stop talking for a moment, to grab my big toe and complete the pose for myself today, holding on to the big toe with the leg extended. Good. Keep the buttock muscles engaged and your core muscles engaged. And then gently folding that leg in. And from here, let's take a prone position where you're lying belly down and fold your arms so that you can rest your head onto your folded hands. Once you've done that, and straightening up the body line on the mat, then rock your hips slightly side to side, allowing the buttocks to relax. Separate your legs and your feet slightly. Bend your legs. When the legs are bent, circle your feet. I don't know why, but this foot circling thing seems to help me relax all of my body. Okay, and circle the other way. And when you've done that, then drop your feet to the floor and come to lift up. Lift your chest and ease back into child's pose to whatever extent you can do that. So we haven't done so much work on knees today. So bringing the buttocks back to whatever point feels all right and safe for your knees. And then otherwise, buttocks all the way back towards your heels. We're going to finish today's session with chair shavasana. So you get a little bit of a inversion. So for placing my body in lying down position in front of the chair, I want my buttocks nice and close to the chair. For my body size, my frame, it works very well for me just to have my lower legs supported onto the chair with no extra props. However, if you're shorter than I am, if you're on the short side, you might want to have a little extra padding underneath your buttocks, like a folded blanket. Or if on the other hand, if you're taller, then place a folded blanket or two on the top of the seat of the chair. So I don't know why, but it seems like it's always the case that people get into the shavasana, the relaxation, more quickly than any other pose that they do in class. So I've gotten myself here fairly quickly, but you take a little while to set yourself up, and however long that takes, so that you feel you're lying with support, and that support helps you let go. So this works well for me because when my heels, my lower legs are supported, the calf muscles broadening, and the fibers, the tissue at the back of the lower legs releasing to that support. And then thigh bones are supported by the chair. They're suspended actually between the knees and the pelvis. And there's every opportunity for the strong leg muscles to release to that support. So the head of the femur dropping down into its housing, and the buttocks relaxed, and broad on the floor. And it's likely that you've closed your eyes, so take a little extra time to relax them. And part of that is allowing the movement of the eyes to quiet down and the eyes to become still. The eyes reflect the activity of the mind. So in this kind of feedback loop, if you can relax the eyes, then the mind starts to become quiet and clear. And lastly here, if you haven't done it, then connect with your own breath, the rhythm of your own breath, and send the message to yourself to allow the breath to slow down, quiet down, and to become ever more subtle. And a way to begin to reemerge from the relaxation, you might just fold your hands over your belly and feel the rhythm of your breath right there. A little inflation through the abdomen and then deflation. Filling and emptying. And then begin to slide your legs towards you before lowering them to the floor. Roll onto your side. Stay a little longer if you want, or a lot longer, but otherwise coming up to take your seat. And once you're seated comfortable in your upright posture, upright but not uptight, bring your hands into prayer position. The gesture of recognition of your own divinity, a sign of respect to yourself, but also to each other. And the words reflect that. We say namaste. Thank you.